with regards to Asad's translation and commentary of the Quran. I'm not here to answer all the attack. I will do that later on, when you're not here. But I think I have to explain a few things. Why Asad's message of the Quran is very important, especially in our modern time. I'll give 3 examples. First of all, I'm a medical doctor. I'm a surgeon. I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon. I operate on heart and lungs. And there are a few surgeons over here, Professor Abdul Hamid, Mr. Faisal, and there are a few doctors here, Professor Tahir Azhar. What we are facing now, even though yesterday you said that in medicine there's no such thing as, people trying to Islamize medicine, but in our country there is a certain group of people, trying to promote what they call as Islamic medicine. But what Islamic medicine meant to them was basically some rituals to fight against jinns, for example. And this is what they call as Islamic medicine, or against what is known in our culture as Santau. So it is a problem. To us, it is a problem, because then people like us, people like me, people like Prof. Tahir, we are not basically practicing Islamic medicine. So it's going to be a problem. Why Asad's translation is very important is that it goes back and challenges our rational thinking, our critical thinking, as what you said. Let's take an example. For example, when he was trying to elaborate about Surah Al-Fil, for example. So he mentions, Tayran Ababil. The general understanding of the Muslim, generally the mainstream Muslims, would believe that these are birds being sent by God with some small pebbles of stones, and because of these pebbles, the entire army of Abraha with his elephants were being destroyed. But Asad challenged that. Asad challenged that idea and said that Ta'ir, which the plural is Ta'ir, Ta'ir does not necessarily denote birds. He said Ta'ir can be any flying creature or unseen flying creatures. So he was alluding to the fact that, based on historical evidence, that there was an outbreak, the first outbreak of smallpox in the Arabian Peninsula, that it could have been due to the smallpox viruses instead of birds. So to me, when I read this kind of interpretation, to me it makes sense for us. Why must we always think of something which we could see rather than... So now, instead of fighting, instead of the Muslims trying to try and gain knowledge, try and do lots of research into combating viruses and bacteria, infection and stuff like that, we are trying to promote people to fight against jinns. How many Muslims have been killed by jinns as compared to millions and billions that have been killed by viruses and bacteria? So I think it's a very important agenda to understand Asad's translation is very important. So that's one. And secondly, because of now there's what we call as awareness about gender equality and stuff like that. So people have been biased in their translation of the Quran in many aspects. Or, well, the traditionalists would tend to interpret it based on their, their culture at that time. But Asad was saying, like, for example, when he translated the first verse from Surah An-Nisa, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Ya ayuhan nasu taqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahidah wa khalaqa minha zawjaha. O people, be conscious, Ya ayuhan nasu taqu rabbakum, be conscious of God who had created you min nafsin wahidah, from a single soul, he said. Wa khalaqa minha zawjaha, and from that single soul he created your zawj, your spouse. So he was alluding to the fact that there is nothing being mentioned either in the Quran or in tradition that the first creation of man was in fact a male entity. He was saying it's from nafsin wahida, from a single entity. And from this single entity, zawj. And the concept of zawj can be spouse, either a man, a husband to a woman, or a wife to a man. وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا. Zawjaha, ha is for the first entity. That is the nafsun wahida, the single soul. So to me, it is very important when we're talking about gender equality and stuff like that. Asad, was at the forefront, was trying to say that, look, Islam promotes gender equality. And there are many other verses. When he was describing about Surah Al-Mu'minun, for example, and many other verses. And the third one, and I think it is very important as well, is that the story of Ashabul Kahfi, for example. When the general understanding of Ashabul Kahfi is that these are young people who were trying to hide themselves in a cave and from an evil tyrant, and they fell to sleep for many years. And suddenly they woke up, and then they realized that time has changed. But for Asad, he said in his commentary, based on the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and based on the time of the Ashabul Kahfi, and he was commenting back from Ibn Kathir and a few other sources, saying that they were basically the first disciples of Jesus, and they were trying and preserve. And Ar-Raqim, which was mentioned in the Quran, has similar understanding as Marqum, which is written, something which is written. So they're trying to write all the teaching of Jesus and preserve it. So they are basically living in oblivion of whatever is happening outside there, and trying to preserve their faith. So they are not people who sleep in a cave, but people who live and strive and work. And I think that's very important for us today. When Muslims tend to slip into oblivion, we should be working hard and strive. And that's the importance of Asad's message. And I think with that, I'll open to the floor. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I was here yesterday afternoon, last night, watching the documentary. Before that, my name is Ruslan Abdullah. First, before I go to the question, I was very fascinated by Professor Tariq's speech, and I think I'd like to say out my heart that watch out for you to be assassinated by the trauma that maybe you are facing. You might be assassinated. Okay, science is neither east nor west. I remember more than 10 years ago when my daughter was about to enroll in science class, she asked me, Abba, what is science? Then suddenly I know that I couldn't answer. And immediately I start praying and ask God, can you give me an answer that can satisfy this little girl and all of mankind if you can? Then suddenly I blurt out that science is physics, chemistry, and biology. And of course, she asked, what is physics, chemistry, and biology? Then I said, physics, by looking at the class in front of us, we are having sahur at that time, that physics is a calculation and mechanics in a creation. Chemistry is the relationship of different material in a creation while looking at the same glass. And biology is the natural creation in a creation. What is there in all the caption which is the same, which is science, which is creation? So, science is creation. Who creates? In the Quran, it teaches us, it is He who creates the heaven and the earth and all that is between. And if we can relate whatever we do to the Creator, I believe all of this session will be blessed. And all of this, all creations is about the Creator. Now, I do not know Asad before this. I know him, I think, for about 24 hours. And I see a man who actually sacrificed his self to believing into this oneness. And actually this oneness is all that is matters actually. And when he wants to go for a pilgrimage, he was given what? To be chauffeur driven if he wants to, but he said to the king, no.
Could you go straight to your point, please?
Yes. I am going, this is my point. The ends is always the creator, the means is Muhammad. I'm going to follow Muhammad as he goes to pilgrimage on camel, and he actually ride the camel. Now the question is, the big one is, whatever we do, the means is also the Quran. But problem for us Malaysian, we can recite the Quran very well, winning awards, but I think 99% of us hardly understand what we read. And I wish that our distinguished Professor Tariq could not encourage, but persist that the importance of understanding of the Quran is the basic tenets of being a Muslim, being a good Muslim, for us to be of any importance of our existence. I'll give you an example.
Could you, I think we give time for a second question then. Can you go ahead, please?